one way we can make the page look more interesting is to apply a gradient. So gradients can be applied to an object. I'm just going to choose the rectangle tool there and draw a rectangle to demonstrate on. So at the moment my rectangle has a black fill and no outline. And if you remember, we can change the colour of the fill and the colour of the outline here. I look down here, I can choose the gradient swatch tool. If I double click on that, the gradient panel will come up. And in there I can choose the type of gradient, linear or radial. And it will automatically apply to my object, as long as my object is selected. If you're finding it won't apply, you just need to get your selection tool, that's V on the keyboard, and just make sure that you've clicked on the object. So with the gradient tool selected, I can change the angle of this gradient. So at the moment it's coming in from the right to the left. I can change it. I can change the distance over which it's spread, for a harsher or a softer gradient. And I can do the same with the radial. You can get some really nice looks like that. A grey gradient is a bit boring, so we can change that by just bringing up the colour swatch panel, or you could do this with the colour picker. Choosing a new colour, left clicking on the colour, dragging it over and dropping it on one of the gradient stops over here. So that's now changed my white slide to a blue one. And I can get another one and drop it in over here. So that's changed my colours quite dramatically, and then I can go back and maybe make some changes with how I'm doing the gradient there. I can add more colours if I want to, so I might add a red in there and a yellow in there, and start having a sort of rainbow effect. I can apply that to any shape. What I'm going to do though is apply it to the whole page, so do that in the same way. I'm just going to draw a big rectangle around the whole page. Remember to overlap slightly because of page bleed, although that doesn't affect you so much if you're not printing. I've got some weird corner thing going on mine there, so I'm just going to change that here. Apply the gradient and drag. I can any of these that I don't want, I can just grab and drag them out of the way and they'll disappear. Select my object. My object is gone. I can then use that, I can layer up my text and images on top of this. So that's quite bright and garish, but I've used these colours just so that you can see quite clearly what I'm doing. Another way I can add interest is to place one picture in several frames. So I can draw in my object frames there. Choose the selection tool, so be on the keyboard, and select all of my frames. Click on the Object menu and choose Paths, Make Compound Paths. And now when I drag in my image, it will break it up between the frames, and I can then click on the circle in the middle to get the orange frame up and move that image about till I get the features where I want. I can select the text and the image there, and I can choose to wrap. Another way of adding some interest to your documents is to add infographics. InDesign doesn't automatically add charts and graphics and things. You'd need to do those in Illustrator if you want them to look really nice. You can add Excel charts to Illustrator to get a nice visual graphic and then import it. You can make mock-ups in InDesign of some shapes. So, for example, I take the rectangle tool shape there and just draw a bar. I click on the selection tool there, I get this yellow box comes up, and I can click on the yellow box, and that gives me yellow corners. And I can just drag one of those back and it will round my corners off. It gives me a nice bar shape. I'm just going to colour that. And drop the opacity. And I'm going to copy that. So Command C to copy, Command V to paste. I'm going to drop the new one on top. I can just shrink the new one back. It gives me a nice kind of percent style slider bar. So next to that I could add some kind of text. Increase the size and maybe change the font. And I can select the whole thing there, and if I hold down the Option key on the keyboard, or the Alt key if you're on Windows, I can grab the whole thing and just drag it down one. And then go to Edit and choose Step and Repeat, and choose how many times I want to repeat that. So I've got 3 in there, I'll just go with that. And I can go back in and change any of these now. And I could go back in and change the ears there as well, or whatever information I have. The last thing I'm going to do in this tutorial is look at how to make a front cover knocking out text or filling text with an image or a texture. So we'll start with filling text with an image. I'm going to draw a text box and just write my title in there. Select that title. I'm going to choose a font. It needs to be a clear, bold font with plenty of room for your image to show through. Go with impact there. And I'm going to scale it up. Okay, so next I'm going to click on, use the selection tool to select the box, click on type, and come down to create outlines. And that's just moved the box around the type, but the type looks the same. I go now to File, Place. I can find my image, choose Open. I come back, it's replaced the type with the image. The image is a bit small, so I can just come back in there and open the orange box for the image size and stretch it out. I could do the same with the photograph. Just reselect it, file, place, find one of the photos from my file. So that can be really effective. I can do this also in reverse, so I can knock the text out of a shape, showing a background beneath. So I would do that by making a shape and filling it with the colour I want. Making a text box in the same way, typing my title in. See, because it's the same colour, let's just change it so that we can see what we've got. Change the font to something nice and clear. Size. Now if I open the effects menu, so window effects, I'm just going to select the text in this effect and drop the opacity right down to 0, so it disappears, you can't see it, but it is still there. I use the selection tool now, the black arrow. I can select both the text and the box behind and group them, so Command G to group. Then if I come back to the effects panel and choose knockout group, it will knock the writing out of the shape. From there I can add an image to go underneath. So if I grab that image and drag it in, stretch it, or I could have made a frame for this really. I'm just going to send it behind the text, so arrange, send to back. And so that's an effective way so that can be an effective way of drawing attention to your front cover or your text or your key point.